It was a bitterly cold morning in early December, the kind that bit through coats and froze fingertips. People hurried down the city streets, heads down, collars up, and hearts seemingly closed. Among the bustling crowd, curled up against the side of a graffiti-stained building, sat a girl who looked no older than 16. Her hoodie was torn, shoes mismatched, and her arms wrapped tightly around herself, not just against the cold, but the crushing weight of being unseen. Hundreds passed her, some glanced, most didn't. A few whispered things like druggie or runaway, as if her existence were a stain on their mourning. She didn't cry, she'd already spent those tears. The girl's name was Lila, and her story didn't begin on the street, but that's where most people were content to let it end. Then came a boy. A curious, small voice broke the noise of the city. "Dad, why is she sitting there like that?" The man beside him paused, holding his son's tiny hand. His name was Daniel, a single father trying to raise his son Ethan the best he could after losing his wife 2 years earlier. He worked long hours as a mechanic, picking Ethan up from school when he could, always trying to teach him about kindness and strength. But in that moment, faced with his son's innocent question and the girl so obviously alone, Daniel hesitated. He looked at Lila, really looked, and what he saw was not just a homeless teenager. He saw a child, scared and broken, in the same city his own son was growing up in. He couldn't walk past her, not this time. Daniel approached slowly, crouching in front of her. "Hey," he said gently, "you okay?" Lila didn't respond. She stared past him like he wasn't there. Years of rejection taught her silence was safer. Daniel didn't push. Instead, he took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You don't have to say anything, but I want you to know we see you." Ethan handed her a granola bar from his backpack. "It's my favorite," he said shyly. That moment, small and warm in a world that had been so cold, cracked something in Lila. For the first time in weeks, someone had been kind without expecting anything in return. Still, she said nothing as they left. But the next morning, Daniel and Ethan came back, and the next. Every day they brought something: food, warm clothes, conversation. Eventually, Lila spoke. Her story poured out slowly, pieces revealed like glass from under dirt. She had been in foster care since she was 7. At 15, a particularly cruel placement turned violent. She ran. The streets offered more safety than that home ever had. No family, no friends, no one had looked for her. Daniel didn't judge her. He listened. He brought pamphlets for shelters, but she shook her head. "They're full or dangerous," she said. "It's better here." So he found other ways to help. He asked a friend from church if Lila could shower and rest there a few hours. Another friend had a thrift shop and donated clean clothes. Lila started to smile again, just faintly. But then winter deepened and the city cracked down on loitering. One morning, Daniel and Ethan arrived to find Lila gone. Her spot was empty, her few belongings scattered as if shoved aside. Daniel called every shelter, every hospital. Nothing. Days passed. Then, on the 4th day, Ethan tugged on Daniel's sleeve at a busy intersection. "Dad, that's her." She was across the street, limping, shivering, and thinner than before. Daniel didn't think. He ran to her. "Lila." She turned slowly, her eyes filled with something unfamiliar, relief. He didn't scold. He just said, "Come on, we're getting you help." That night, Lila slept in the spare room of a friend of Daniel's, an older woman who had fostered before. A real bed, a warm meal, clean sheets. From there, everything didn't magically become perfect. There were setbacks. Lila battled trust issues, fear of abandonment, and struggled in school. But Daniel didn't give up on her. He enrolled her in GED classes, helped her get therapy through a nonprofit, and made sure she knew, every day, that she was wanted. One day she broke down, sobbing in the kitchen. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you help me?" Daniel knelt beside her and said simply, "Because I'd want someone to do the same for Ethan if he was ever lost. Because no one deserves to be invisible." Years later, Lila stood on a small stage, diploma in hand, graduating from a social work program. Daniel and Ethan, now a teenager, sat in the front row cheering. She had come full circle. She found her voice, and she used it to advocate for kids like her, the ones everyone walked past. The video of her speech that day went viral. In it, she said, "A single act of kindness can rewrite someone's story. I was a homeless girl no one saw, but a man and his little boy looked past what I was and saw who I could become. A single act of kindness can rewrite someone's story." That one line holds the weight of lives changed, paths redirected, and hearts healed. It sounds simple, almost like a quote you'd skim past on social media. But behind those words lies a truth so deep and transformative that when lived, it reshapes not only the one receiving kindness, but the one giving it. Imagine walking through life every day, invisible to the world. You speak and no one hears. You cry, but no one comes. You exist, but to everyone else, you're just another blur in the background. That was Lila's life. For years, she had gone without a steady roof over her head, without safety, without love. Every day was a test of survival. Every night, a negotiation between sleep and the fear of what might happen while she rested. People saw her, of course, but not in the way that mattered. They saw a girl on the street and assumed things: drugs, rebellion, irresponsibility. No one asked what had happened to her. No one cared to know her name. Not until a man and his young son walked past her spot on the sidewalk and stopped. They didn't offer $100 bill or give her a speech about turning her life around. They offered something far more rare: genuine human attention. That day, when Daniel wrapped his coat around Lila's shaking shoulders and Ethan handed her a granola bar, her story didn't end, it began again. It was a spark, small and fragile, but real. In a world that had told her she didn't matter, their kindness told her she did. And when someone feels they matter, they begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, they have a future worth living. What followed wasn't a fairy tale. It was a long road full of fear, doubt, setbacks, and small triumphs. Lila had to unlearn survival mode. She had to learn to trust again, to believe that not everyone would abandon her or hurt her. She had to let herself be helped. And Daniel, a man already juggling the weight of single fatherhood, had to stretch himself too, emotionally, financially, spiritually. He had no obligation to this girl, but kindness isn't about obligation. It's about compassion. It's about looking at someone and choosing empathy over indifference. As Lila grew stronger, she began to help others like her. She spoke up in group sessions. She shared her story in shelters. She became the one who now extended that single act of kindness to others who were still where she used to be. That one moment, just a father and son offering warmth and food, had started a ripple that reached far beyond what they could have imagined. It didn't cost them much. It wasn't grand or loud or flashy. It was quiet, real, and human. And that's the thing about kindness. It doesn't require perfection. It doesn't ask you to be a savior. It asks only that you see the humanity in someone else and act on it. So when you hear that a single act of kindness can rewrite someone's story, know that it's not poetic fluff. It's truth. Lila is living proof. And Daniel and Ethan, two ordinary people who chose not to look away, are a reminder of what's possible when we choose to care. In a world that often feels cold and rushed and hardened, you have no idea how much of a miracle your kindness might be to someone else. That coat, that granola bar, that moment of eye contact that says, "I see you," it might not change the world, but it might change their world, and that's everything. The message is simple, but unforgettable. Never underestimate the power of compassion. You may not be able to change the whole world, but you can change one. And sometimes that's more than enough.